Hello, I'm Mark,
I'm Casey.
and today we're going to talk a little bit how Jim Farley of Ford has been agreeing with Tesla lately. But first, let's roll that title.
You're watching the TTL Express.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Wanted to talk a little bit today about Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford Motor Company. He sat down with a reporter recently. We'll put a link to that in the notes if you want to go see that video for yourself. About 20 minutes or so, where he sat down and took some questions from an interviewer and talked a little bit about the EV situation. And I was pleasantly surprised about how Jim was talking about EVs, about his vision for Ford, where they're going with EVs, and some of the compliments that he was throwing Tesla's way as he went through this interview. He mentioned Tesla several times through the interview in a positive light. First of all, the first thing he mentioned was about Elon's gracious offer to allow Ford to connect to the supercharger network as one of their first partners outside of themselves to allow those vehicles from that manufacturer to charge at Tesla superchargers. And of course, Jim talked a little bit about his experience when he went on that EV road trip with his family last summer.
Behind the Walmart, next to the dumpster.
Exactly. Tried to use the Ford charging network at the time and discovered to his chagrin that Ford customers were not getting a great value out of it, with broken chargers, with chargers that were placed in poor areas of a mall, in an alleyway beside a dumpster. And then, of course, with the issues with charging or getting the charger started, the sessions that would drop and having to re-engage it a few times and to ultimately get a charge. Those were all things that concerned Jim as he was on that little trip, because he could definitely see that customer satisfaction would certainly wane if this is the experience that all Ford EV owners would have to endure if they were to choose to go cross state or across the country. These are things that they were going to experience because Jim was experiencing these things in EV-centric California, where you would expect the third-party charging game would be at its best because of the sheer volume of EVs on the road in around California, Arizona, Nevada, and more. So Jim, of course, that got Jim on the phone to Tesla last summer and talked to Elon and said, listen, can we come up with some sort of arrangement here? And Elon graciously allowed them to do it. And I think Jim was a little bit somewhat surprised, but certainly happy that he was able to move forward into that position. Also, he was speaking about where Ford is going with the F-150, the Mach-E, with the transit van that they have. And certainly you can, but Jim actually commented about these mostly fleet owners are buying this vehicle. And of course, people that run fleets really understand the numbers about how far their vehicle drives, about how long their vehicle sits, and understand that electricity is, approximately 1/6 the cost of gasoline when it comes to fueling those vehicles. And he was saying about how how the accountants make it a real easy case to say, listen, this just makes sense. We buy the vehicle. It sits here back at home base for at least 8 hours. It charges fully. It only drives, 80 miles in a day. The vehicle gives us 150 miles of range. It all makes sense. Why are we waiting? Do we like spending more money? No. Let's cut our losses on maintenance and fuel and go electric. So Another piece of information that came out just this week from Ford, and of course, this has come right from the top, Jim himself. He's encouraging Ford managers to purchase and actually drive electric vehicles from Ford. He's saying, you people now need to do what I did to understand how the EVs work. And in order to do that, you need to drive them. You need to be a daily driver. You need to understand what situations come up through experience, just like I did on my trip to California. And talk about directness, like being able to say, you know what, I saw the light after I took that road trip with my family. Now I want my employees to see the light as well. And in order to do that, you need to experience an EV, and you need it to be something that is enrolled into your life so that you can understand what the customer is going to be faced with when they purchase our vehicle. And of course, you're going to be a more effective seller of that vehicle going forward as well, because you understand how it operates and how it works.
Eat your own dog food. And for those who don't know what that means, it's Microsoft used a lot. Other people use it too, where you use a product that you make in-house so that you can find anything before the customer finds it. Was it Jim or somebody else who pointed out that when people were benchmarking the Teslas, the executive would receive the vehicle in the test slot, already juiced up and ready to go, air conditioner on, all that, and they would do a couple laps and they would call it a day, and that none of them had ever had to go to the charging station, had to fill it up and figure out what's going on. Was that him or was that somebody else?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was him or not.
But whoever that was had a point, and if you don't know how the competition actually works, then you don't really make a compelling product to compete with the competition. And so now with your own car, you need the same situation. You can't just have your secretary bring the car around already charged up. You need to drive it every day. You need to be able to go to the charging stations, charge it at home, and feel what it's like to go through a whole set of seasons with this thing.
Exactly. And I think even more ideally is with the car being a daily driver, they're going to be forced to do some of the situations that we as EV owners have understood for an awful long time. When you're low on charge for whatever reason, oh, I got home late, I forgot to plug it in, or I am going on a longer trip than the battery that I have left in the car. I've got to get a charge on the go. I've got to pick a charger. I'm hoping it's going to work. I'm hoping the charger I'm going to is operational. All those things, I think Jim's management needs to know these things, because they are something that Jim learned himself again on that road trip that he did last summer. He was able to run into all those circumstances over a number of days. I remember that he had made the comment when he was pulling up, they had to get off the highway to get a charge, and some of his boys in the back had said, "Oh, can we go to that charger right there, because it's right beside the convenience store?" We'd like, no, that's a Tesla charger. We can't go to that. We're going to the Walmart in the back alley behind. And then you could just see the disappointment that his kids had, because of course they were pointing out that here's a great charger. It's right out front. It's visible. It's just a few steps from the highway, and we can all go to the bathroom. We could grab a drink. It's all right there. No, we gotta go find it in the back of the Walmart, and that's the only option we get. So again, Jim learned through experience, and he's now pushing his management to, now you guys need to learn from experience.
I like this quote from the article where they're quoting Farley. He said, most compellingly, once people try an EV, they don't usually want to go back. Nearly 70% of global electric vehicle owners say they'll only buy electric vehicles in the future. So that goes counter to that weird study we talked about a couple weeks ago, where it had some absurdly high number of people going back to gas.
Yep, back to gas. And it's just not the case. Jim can see, obviously, that these stats mean that if Ford gets someone to purchase an EV, they've got more than a 70% chance that that person's going to buy another EV. And if they have a good experience with Ford, they're not going to look elsewhere. They're just going to buy the next Ford EV that's a little bit better than what they have, or gives them a little bit more ability than what they have, and they'll stick. So they'll have a conquest order that continues to resell those Ford electrics in the future. So this is great.
I was a Toyota customer for the longest time, and then they didn't have anything with the plug, and so I switched to Chevy. And then Chevy didn't have anything that wouldn't just burn gasoline, so I switched to Tesla.
Exactly. So this is something that if you can get to the point where the customer is pleased with the offering, they'll stay within your wheelhouse and continue to buy cars from you. And Jim actually sees this, and with the stats that he's seen from reliable sources, it's showing that us EV owners are not leaving the EV architecture. We're staying. We're not going back to gas. And Ford wants to start collecting on that, starting this quarter. They had a great quarter when it came this year, Q2 for Ford in their electric vehicle. They're still losing money. We know that, but the volume is starting to go up. They're now getting to the point where they're producing the vehicles at a higher amount, and of course they can lower the cost of making those vehicles, and ultimately start eyeing a profit once they get into the even higher numbers. So that's what Ford is after. That's what Jim's after. And in order to be successful CEO, he's going to have to push the company forward, doing these type of things, like getting your managers to own and operate an EV going forward.
Yeah, and when you look at the companies like Ford, they're set up for volume already, even on their EVs. So if they're not doing volume, it's costing them on so many different levels. So to see that kind of creep up a little bit gives them a little more breathing room to do the right thing.
Yeah. And of course, Ford has done this in the past. They were the first ones to go to an aluminum body on the F-150 pickup truck. They were beaten up and down when they announced they were coming out with an aluminum body pickup truck. What are you, crazy? Why would you move from steel? Well, the weight savings is there, and that weight savings is going to make the vehicle more fuel efficient. It's going to make the vehicle be a more compelling entry in the pickup truck market. And if you put the aluminum bed in the right areas and the right sequences, you are going to benefit from it. And that's exactly what Ford has done in the past. And it looks like they're starting to do this with EVs today. Well, with that, Casey, I think we will call it a day. What do you got coming up that you can let people know about?
On Wednesday, just 2 days from now, we've got the Tesla Life live. So we'll see you at Wednesday at 7 Eastern.
Exactly. And if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Press that subscribe button. You'll be notified if you press the bell every time that we put up a video. We're putting up 3 a week now. So please join us. Give us a thumbs up, and that would be really appreciated. But with that said, you guys have a good evening, and we will catch you next time and find out what's happening in the Tesla Life.